Hey to the most amazing nurses. It is Dr. V here with Morning Infusion with Dr. V podcast, where we are intentional about teaching nurses how to work from anywhere around the world, making money and owning your own time, building profitable nurse coaching and consulting businesses. You will hear from amazing guests that have grown their companies and want to share insight into how you can do the same to change the face of healthcare as we know it. If you want to grow your businesses and leverage your knowledge as a nurse to grow wildly successful businesses at the top, instead of working your way to the top, head on over and join our Millionaire Nurse CEO group on Facebook, where you can ask questions and get updates on our live and virtual events to help you grow your businesses. Good morning, everyone. So I'm super excited. I have got Cheree here, who is absolutely amazing. So first, need for you to like, share, comment on this podcast. Tell us what we're doing good. Tell us what we're doing bad. Tell us how we can improve. And also, just tell us how amazing Cheree is. So Cheree, tell us who you are in your own words.
Thank you. So my name is Cheree. I am a nurse, women's health. I've been in women's health for about almost 20 years now. Started out in the Navy, then worked various places in the DMV area. During my time as a nurse, I went on ahead and got a master's in business administration because I knew I always wanted my own business. Did a couple of different types of businesses throughout the years, but then decided to settle in helping other business owners grow and profit. So I've been doing accounting and tax since about 2016.
I love it. So now you always knew you wanted to be in business, but then you became a nurse. So you always knew you wanted to have a nursing business, correct? Is that?
So probably ever since I was little, I always wanted a business, not necessarily knowing exactly what at the time.
What motivated you to have that? Like, was there?
Let's see, what did I do? So you know how in the neighborhood you have the neighborhood candy person or whatever. So I was the one with the frozen cups, if you know what those are. So that was me. That was our house. So I've been doing that. And then of course, growing up, I always had other little things. I think I just wanted to be independent and just have my own stuff. And I always had ideas. So I just figured out what to do with them.
I love it.
But so the entrepreneurial spirit was before nursing. But when I got into nursing, I decided, again, I still wanted to have my own business. I wanted to be a midwife. I wanted to own a birthing center. And then that changed once I realized certain things that midwives had to do during the delivery process. I was like, I don't think I can do that.
Like what?
Oh, my first episiotomy, I was like, no. I don't think I could do that to another person.
Well, listen, on the other side of it, it's really, really rough.
Yeah, I believe you. Anytime it happens, I always turn my head. So it's like, I could not be the active person doing that. So I was like, that's okay. But during that time, I became a lactation consultant. I did have a online business for expecting and new mothers. So it was an e-commerce store. And I did well. And I did also do lactation. And I did that for a little bit. And then I was still in the Navy in master's degree, all that stuff at that time. Then I decided to change what I wanted to do. For my master's degree, we had to do a thesis, you had to do a business plan. And one of the business plans that I did with my group was an extended day daycare because we're nurses, right? We work 7 to 7, we got kids, daycares are open, 9 to 5. They don't open when we need them to open and they don't close. So that was my business plan. And my idea was to take that business plan because it was vetted. We had a team of marketers, bankers, had to vet your business. But I was going to do that. And I talked to a broker and they told me how much it was going to cost to do it. And I just kind of let that by the wayside. Wish I didn't, but I did. So then I started trying some other things and I decided, you know what, let me just use this MBA and help other business owners because there were a lot of questions out there, what to do, how to do it. Business owners weren't doing it, weren't considering it important. So I was like, this is low cost way to get started. Let me start this. The demand was there. So that's where I'm at now.
So now you went to the Navy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what made you go to the Navy? Like, I was prissy in high school, so I
No.
want, that was gonna go to any Navy, Air Force, Army, nobody's. Okay, services. Okay, so tell me about you and what made you want to go to the Navy.
So now this is way prior to nursing because I was in the Navy before I was in school. I was enlisted,
Uh,
and I probably to pay for college. But back in the day in high school, I was all into the spy movies, this, that, and the third. So I have a family history of military. So I went to recruiter, went to the Navy, scored high enough on the ASVAB, got intel, was thinking I was going to be GI Jane, that sort of thing. Um, I mean, we got to do cool stuff. Intel is still kind of boring. You know stuff, but it's kind of boring. But I was doing that first, but I knew I wanted to go to school, and I originally wanted to be a doctor. So I got the scholarship to go to school. The Navy paid for it. Every year, the Navy only chooses like a handful of people to go to med school. I had a 3.8. It wasn't high enough. So I converted to nursing. And I honestly wasn't really sure exactly what nursing was until, except for what you see on TV, which is not a lot of anything. And I was like, how do you get a degree in this? Like, you're just emptying bedpans and like all, because you don't know. And then you get there and you're like, oh, okay.
it's a little
Right.
bit more than that.
Yeah.
So a little bit more than that. So let me ask. Okay, so then you become a nurse,
Mm-hmm.
get into this business now, but you didn't start out doing nurse. Like, you didn't start out with the doing the accountant stuff, correct?
No. So I was a nurse. Like within a couple months, I went back to school to get my degree.
Mm-hmm.
I think I used the MBA to start my business. So I was a nurse first. And then I was in school while I was a nurse.
Mm-hmm.
And then actually doing the accounting for others came in way later after I went through all my changes of what type of business I wanted.
Okay. So now tell me what made you want to do the accounting. Like, what drew you there?
Oh, so when I got my MBA, it was to learn how to run a business. That's what my goal was, to get the MBA. And then with that was a lot of accounting classes, and I just liked it. I always like math, but um, it was something about learning the accounting, and I just kind of like took to it, and I almost considered getting my CPA from the master's degree. But I was doing a lot. I had newborn and a newborn and all kinds of other stuff. But I just kind of like loved the accounting portion of it.
Gotcha. Now, tell me, when it comes to accounting, tell me some of the struggles that you see nurses, or the things that you see nurse entrepreneurs making, what mistakes that you see them
I
making.
think the biggest mistake is not understanding how important it is and not having it at all.
Mm.
A lot of people feel like you don't need it until you make a certain amount of money. And whether you have someone on retainer or not is irrelevant. You always need accounting because the same questions come up over and over again. And I find that people will ask their friends and not ask the authorities in this space. Um, so I'll hear a lot of either incorrect answers, not complete answers, or you get the text time like, oh, how do do your business taxes, guys? How do you do this? How do you do that? Or, you know, they just don't think about it at all.
So what is an incorrect thing that you have heard over the years that
So the biggest thing is right now, the hottest thing is S corps, right? Everyone should have S corps. And I'm like, no, that's not necessarily true. You have to crunch some numbers. There's a lot of other things besides profit that you have to think about. And then a lot of people, whether it's from maybe their tax preparer or a coach or something that tells them that, but you forget about the other things that come after that. So a lot of extra accounting, extra business tax return that can eat up some of your profits depending on when you started. So a lot of things that go into it.
Why do you think S corps is a big thing now?
Because that's all you see all over TikTok. People find out a little bit about something, and then they'll use that as a way to gather, following. Like, oh, get this, save yourself money on taxes, and then everyone wants to save money on taxes, right? So then they come up with this big following, and then that's what everyone is doing, and people don't understand. Like for instance, S corps save you on self-employment taxes, but depending on your situation, income taxes you still have to pay income taxes, right? So your savings may be huge, it may not be huge. It all depends on where you're starting from. Then people tell you that do the S corp, you can get all these extra deductions, and 9 times out of 10, some of the deductions you can get with an LLC or even a sole proprietorship.
Right.
So that's another thing I see. Oh, you need an LLC to deduct. No, you don't. That's a legal thing. That's not an IRS thing. They don't care about LLCs. Stuff like that. But S corps is like the biggest thing out there, or TikTok, Instagram, everywhere.
So when it comes to this is something, can you go over commingling funds? This is one thing that I think a lot of people don't really understand. Like a family member who was in business, and she was just not doing business right at the end of the day, right?
Right.
When it comes to commingling funds. So tell us a little bit about that.
So commingling funds is like when you mix your personal finances with your business. So a lot of people feel like I'm in business, and I've heard stories, even just hanging out with friends, like people across at another table. People feel like they have a business, and that is like an excuse or permission to just swipe your card everywhere. I've seen people run their, car payments through the business, gas, your utilities, or sometimes you may not have a business account and then you're just paying everything with personal funds, or maybe all your business income is going to your personal account. That's commingling. So with commingling, number one, depending on the type of business you have, LLC, S corp, partnership, it's a big no-no. It's a big no-no for the IRS. It's a big no-no if you ever get in trouble. If you're not distinguishing that these funds belong to this entity and these funds belong to me, God forbid something happens and someone comes after you, you're just telling everybody all the money belongs in one pot. Also, you lose out on deductions. I see people scrambling every year, combing through bank statements, trying to figure out what from their personal account was actually for the business. And then if you don't do it, you lose out on things. If you have accounting, it's going to be a mess. I have a client now who just runs everything through the business. And I'm like, it's not your personal pay. The business is not your personal paycheck. There's ways that you can move money over depending on your entity, so you can pay your personal, personal bills, which is what we're in business for, to pay ourselves. But there's a way in which you do it, and it all depends on the type of entity you have. So you can either overstate income and pay more taxes. You can miss out on deductions and pay more taxes because things aren't aligned the way they're supposed to be.
I love that. I love that because one of the things that I just didn't realize, especially when I first went into business, and luckily we had this banker that came to one of the first, like when I first started business, came to the conference, and she said, "Do not commingle funds. Do not deal with a business that commingles funds." And I was like, "Well, what is commingling?" Right. And so then, and that's the importance, of course, of going to conferences, so that, or just being educated, or just being coached on the process, right? If you don't know, then you don't know. But the federal government doesn't care whether you don't know.
Exactly.
I mean, they don't really care what whether you do or not. So now, what are some of the, outside of S corps, what are some of the other things that you've seen that people have done within business that really, really, like within our business? One of the things that I've seen is huge, is lack of marketing, lack of putting yourself out there, lack of, a whole mindset
Mm-hmm.
into that. So tell me a little bit more about what are you seeing in the market as it relates to accounting? Because accounting, I think that when you think about the accounting of your business or think about hanging out, what are some of the steps? We're going to go to commercial, but I want you to think about some of the things that you absolutely need to do and absolutely need to speak with your accountant about um,
Mm-hmm.
before you start to, as you're going through this process. So think about that, and then we'll come back and we'll start talking about that. Okay?
Got it.
All right, cool.
I became a nurse because I wanted to help heal people, to make a meaningful impact in their lives.
I was immediately attracted to her confidence. Absolutely phenomenal.
A full heart.
And just had a connection.
I spent 15 years in emergency nursing, and as I sat at the emergency desk one day, I began to see a pattern. While we cared deeply for our patients, we weren't always solving the bigger issues. We were working so hard, but many times we were only addressing symptoms, reacting to crisis, instead of preventing them. It wasn't anyone's fault, but the system wasn't designed to be proactive. And in the midst of it all, I saw nurses, amazing, compassionate nurses, completely drained. Nurses like you and me, exhausted, burnt out, broken from the grind of giving everything and still feeling like it's never enough. Physically, emotionally, and financially, we were stretched to our limits. I saw it in my coworkers and I felt it in myself. That's when I realized my purpose, to create something that would support nurses, not just as caregivers, but as individuals with dreams, goals, and limitless potential.
She helped me through VP Nursing to get the systems in place to run my business to where I can be outside of my business, still have it successful, and spend more time with my family, do the things that matter.
I want to say thank you to VP for offering this opportunity to us as a community, and I look forward to her next event that's coming back in August.
I wanted to help nurses thrive, not just survive. I knew that the key to real change wasn't in climbing the corporate ladder or waiting for someone else to fix things. It was in giving nurses the tools to step in entrepreneurship, to create businesses that not only transform healthcare, but give them the freedom to live life on their own terms. My heart ached for nurses because I knew we deserved better. I wanted nurses to feel whole again, to have physical, emotional, mental, and financial freedom. And that's when I made the decision to stop waiting for the system to change and start creating something new. That's why I built the company. My mission is to help 10,000 nurses reach 6 figures and 1,000 nurses to reach 7 figures.
I have to say that this conference was absolutely amazing. It was life-changing. And I'm looking forward to working with her. I'm looking forward to her coaching me to become a $1 million nurse CEO. The testimonials, the connections that we made, it's the community that I have been praying for. And I thank God for answering all my prayers.
It's been great. It's been like overwhelmingly great.
This year, we're celebrating our first ever 7-figure nurse entrepreneur, and it's just the beginning. The Millionaire Nurse CEO Conference is your chance to step into that vision. It's not just a conference, it's a movement, a place where nurses come together to connect, to learn, to build businesses that align with their passion and purpose. If you've ever felt like there's more out there for you, this is the moment to take the leap. We can't wait to see you there.
Okay, we're back. So tell us, Cheree, tell us some things you absolutely need to be doing with your accountant. Like what things should you be holding your accountant, to?
So you definitely need to be communicating with them, especially when you're making changes to a business. Like I'm adding a partner's leaving. We're thinking about changing entity status. I've seen people try to do it on their own, and the wrong forms are filed or all kinds of things are happening. I've had clients buy large purchases like lasers and things like that. Um, it's really important to talk to someone first before you do that. Number one, do you have the money? Do you have the market for certain things? Um, I do have a niche in med spa industry, and a lot of people are chasing the next dollar. And they may have one income stream, but they're trying to bring more money in instead of focusing, honing in on the streams that you already have, marketing appropriately, making sure you're hitting your target audience, tweaking that. They're doing other things like buying $100,000 lasers. And now the bill comes and you had no marketing in place. You had no real plan on how you're going to sell it. It's no such thing as if you build it, they will come, right? You have to really put work in. If you have an accountant, you should be meeting with them monthly, quarterly, whatever the engagement says, so you can review your numbers and go over them. Maybe there's a reason why your income is not getting highest you wanted, or maybe there's some expenses that can be reduced to save you. Maybe there's an opportunity for tax savings. Maybe the answer is not S corp. Maybe it's a employment IRA. Maybe it's something else. You definitely want to make sure you stay in communication with them.
I love it. So, have you ever dealt with a self-directed IRA?
So no. So we've done a lot of self-employment IRAs. There's simple 401ks. There's things that you can look at. Most of the time,
it's called a SIP, correct? What is it called?
Self-employment, a SEP. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So tell me about that.
So essentially, that's what it is. It's an IRA for self-employment individuals. So typically, when you work at a company, they fund your IRA, or you fund your IRA with the SEP. Is totally funded by the business. So of course, there's cap limits to it. I think it's up to 25% of your income if you have a salary, and then if you're like an LLC, it's just about the same, but you have to do some subtractions of self-employment taxes and all this other stuff. So you have to do a little calculation. But it's an IRA that you can put some of your earnings in, and it will become a deduction on your tax return for you. So it will lower your taxable income. And then you have solo 401ks. You have another one, a simple IRA. They're all self-employment. Some things will require you to have employees or put in for your employees. It scares people off a lot. But you can have rules, like your job has rules, right? You have to be invested for 3 years. You have to work full time. You have to do this. So people shouldn't really be afraid of them. They should just look into it. And it all depends on your cash flow, how much money you can contribute to it. All that helps determine which one is the better fit for you.
Gotcha. Now, one of the things that we talked about when we first started talking about the podcast, you talked about the fact that when you first started, you were not pricing yourself appropriately of where you need to be. So can you speak to that a little bit?
So like with any other business, you're excited, you're in business, and you want clients, right? So of course we have coaches, we have other people in the industry. They tell you don't undervalue yourself. But you're trying to get that first client. You're afraid that if you get on a consultation with someone and you tell them your prices, that they won't take it. So you lower. And then what happens is you have to work twice as hard. Maybe that particular person doesn't value your services. Once again, I'm going through a cycle again because I made the mistake. I partnered with a company. And it was like, oh, can you give our people special pricing? Then that deal went through, but I'm still with the individuals, and the company didn't do what they were supposed to do by helping the clients grow. So now we're in this standstill. Do I up their prices because they can't afford it, or so we're stuck here. And it's like I may have to, let some people go and revamp again. But I'll even say my clients, they will price. One Best Buy across the street is selling this for this, so I'm going to lower it. And I'm like, you can't do that. I had a coach a long time ago tell me if you compete on pricing, everything would be free.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, it's an experience, and one of the things that I think that people have to understand, number one, is the level of education and level of transformation that you can provide for that person, right? And whether it be in the med spa arena, or whether it be in the account, it doesn't matter, right? And then that is the level of transformation. That's number one. Number two is the experience that you create, right? Because at the end of the day, you want to ensure that you have an amazing experience for your clients, so that your clients are able to, number one, come in and do what they need to do. So yes, I completely understand that. Now, what is one of the biggest lessons that you have learned in business?
One of the biggest lessons is, one, you have to believe in what you're doing, and you have to believe in your value. You have to be able to deliver the value that you claim. So having proper systems in place. You're always problem solving, and I'm always evolving as far as systems and how to map things out from the time a person calls me or schedules an appointment all the way to getting on the phone with them and then them being a client. Like, what does that process look like? So if you're saying, we have offer boutique service, or, we have this amazing transformation, you have to make sure you have things in place to show it. Another thing is, if you have an agreement with someone, if you're, a consultant, or like me, an accountant, and there's things, we all have rights and responsibilities, right? Myself and the person that's hiring me. So if they're not doing what they need to do, you have to have the strength to be like, this isn't working. All money isn't necessarily good money. So holding on to a client because of the money and it's not making you happy, or they're not doing their part so you can give them the transformation, all it's going to do is create a, disgruntled person, potentially a bad review. Just let the losses go.
That's such great, because that's one of the things that when you go into business, one of the things that you obviously want to do is you want to make sure that you're making money, but that all money is not good money is a huge one, because what happens is, you have to protect your community as a coach, and I'm not sure exactly how it rolls as an accountant, but number one, I have to protect me, right? You're the sum total of people you hang around with the most, and that really includes your clients as well. But not just that, you want to ensure that as a coach, you have to protect your community as well. Because we don't do individual coaching, we do group coaching. I can't have, someone, that one bad apple that comes in, I'm not trying to infect my entire community because of that one bad apple. It's a huge thing that you have to make sure that you're doing.
Right.
That is absolutely good. So now, Cheree, tell us where they can find you if they need an accountant.
Sure. So my website is tranquilitybookkeepingservices.com. I am on Instagram as the Med Spa Accountant. I am on TikTok the same way, Med Spa Accountant. If you Google Tranquility Bookkeeping, I should be the first one that pops up there. I'm on LinkedIn as well.
You don't just do med spas now, right?
No. So I do med spas. I have educational consultants. Right now, I'm really focused largely on just nurse entrepreneurs in general. Yep.
Cool. Now, before we go, tell us the difference between a CPA and a tax strategist.
Okay, so you have all kinds of individuals out there. So a CPA is a certified public accountant, and they may do taxes, they may do accounting, they may work in the public sector, may work in the private sector. They may not do taxes at all. But a CPA has a little bit more education, a little bit more licensing. They can represent you with the IRS, things like that. If you are an EA, the same thing. EA is an enrolled agent. They can represent you in front of the IRS. A tax strategist, that's probably just a name someone might call themselves, but you could be an EA, a CPA, or a tax preparer that does tax strategy. Not everyone will do tax planning. You have to really make sure you're asking specifically, do they provide that service?
I love it. So go follow Cheree, okay, on all of her social media platforms. Reach out to her if you need any accounting services. Also, we just make sure that you like, comment, share, because we want to get our business out there to the nurses and the nurse entrepreneurs, because she's a nurse. She understands nurse businesses. And so make sure you get our stuff out there. So it has been a pleasure, and you have an amazing day.
All right, you too.